200 watts, and it pushes up 3 times the light. So you can obviously see the difference in the technologies that are out there. And that's what we're looking to do in our buildings. I mentioned the high school and the North Intermediate School. Our high school, when we did it over, it was costing us over $10,000 a year to run that with hours of operation. After the retrofit, we're saving about $6,000 a year. North Intermediate, when we did that over, we're saving just under $4,000 a year. And that's cash. That's money for the buildings. Some of the other projects that we have in the pipeline, and I've been working with the school department, is the Shawsheen School. We're going to do the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and the stage areas. Again, these are the ones that give us the best bang for our buck. I haven't broken out individually for them, but the Shawsheen will be about a $6,000 savings annually. In the West Intermediate School, we're going to do the same thing, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and the stage area. These are parts of the buildings that get used also at nighttime and on weekends for, say, rec departments and other activities that are going on. Around the same savings we're going to see at the West Intermediate School. And the plan after that is to go through and do some of the other projects that we have in our facilities. Again, I mentioned these hot water heaters that we've been doing. They're all 1964 circa, around 1960. So I'm trying to get them out. The Shawsheen School also has one of these things. I refer to them as submarines because these things are huge. And what we've been doing is we've been putting in 2 hot water heaters at 120 gallons or 100, depending on the usage, and we tandem them together. So if we find that one tank is not sufficient, we can open the other tank up and increase the hot water flow, but still we're doing it at a fraction of the cost of the existing equipment. So, plus they're starting to show their age, so before they fail, we can utilize some of these monies that are coming into the town, utilize our own labor force, which, again, gives us a great return on our investment. Some of the other jobs that we're looking to do, like I said, North Intermediate Gym needs to be done. Woburn Street School, gym, CAF, complete lighting retrofits of all the hallways, all the classrooms in the schools, and same thing for our town buildings, and a few other window replacement jobs. So that's kind of the way we're going. We're looking to take what we have existing and bring it up to today's standards and making our buildings more energy efficient and cut our demand. And that's our whole thing. Once we reduce our KWH, we can reduce our electric load, and we can also do the same for oil. Any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we've been, as Mr. Hooper indicated, we're really trying to leverage available money. You know, the SEP money from Textron was $60,000 for those 4 projects, and then the $15,000 from the RMLD, and then some of our own funds. And I know even that George we've been emphasizing through George and the Public Buildings Department the issues surrounding energy efficiency. And I think they've been doing a great job in cooperation with the school department and these other agencies. It's been going very well. And that's what you're going to see as we go forward. What little money we might have available in capital projects, we're going to try to leverage those funds so that we can get savings in terms of operations, given what we expect to be a very, very tight budget this year. And George also went through very quickly certain projects that are not necessarily energy related, but I do want to let the folks know out there that we are working hard to make improvements where we can. 2 new gym floors, as you mentioned, one in particular at the high school. If you haven't had an opportunity to visit there, along with the lighting improvements, I think you'll be very impressed. And then 2 very important handicapped accessibility projects that were done at the West Intermediate School to ensure that we're in compliance with all of the regulations rightly afforded the disabled population.
George, in terms of the audits, I assume that's something that the town proactively asks Reading Light to participate in and that they offer as a service, right?
They offered us the service at no cost to the town, which is huge. I mean, you could pay a lot of money for this type of ESCO to come through and show us. And that actually is a useful tool to us, so we can go in and see, again, like I said, where we can put our money for and get the best rate of return. So everything needs to be done. Where do you want to start? So we want to go in and where we can cut our energy consumption. I mean, that comes right off our bottom line. So that's where it is the best bang. Again, it's and you don't want to spend big dollars on low returns. I mean, they're all in there, and we, working with the manager, working with the school department, we can determine where we want to go forth. And as this money comes back to us, we can apply it in different areas also. So I think...
What's the order of magnitude on some of those retrofits that you're talking about? Does the town personnel do them? Do we farm that out? Do we, during school hours, off hours? How's that work?
No, we don't farm any of it out. We have some qualified electricians on staff. Myself, we kind of work together. If a light fails, we'll pull out the old ballast and bulbs that are on there and retrofit them, putting a new, I didn't bring one, but an electronic ballast and new energy efficient bulbs. You won't notice the difference. I know there's a few in here that have been done, but we also let Reading Light know. We get a little bit of a return on that, and the energy efficiency, like I said, we're using about 30%. So we do all of that in-house. And, it's a good practice, I think. I practice it at my own house, so everything that we do, we try to come in and make it more energy efficient. It's for the best of the town, so.
That's all good information and good news. The way you were working those bulbs over there, if it doesn't work out for the town, I think you could probably sell them for a living. Yeah.
Well, I'm being an electrician also, it's kind of, it's good. I like to see how this technology progresses. I think it's pretty impressive what they've come out with. The new LEDs, when I came into town, a lot of the exit signs had 25-watt incandescent bulbs, some of them 2. So, you have a 50-watt exit sign that's burning, 8,760 hours a year. You throw in an LED at 1.5, 2 watts, there's huge savings right there. And you don't think about it, but when you go into a school building that has 100 of those, and then you multiply it by all of our buildings, that's where it starts to kick in. And not only that, it's a maintenance factor. As we know, incandescent bulbs do burn out, but an LED, they last a long time. So that just keeps paying every year. So all of these retrofits that we do, it's not just a one-time savings. That has now been incorporated into our budget, so that's we're going to see that savings every year, and then we just maintain what we have. And again, technology does progress, so we'll do everything we can to keep up with it.
All right.
Anything else? Mr. Chairman, can I just point out there might be some concern about the lighting on the common as well. That's been expressed in certain quarters. And people should know that 1,000 strings of lights were donated by RMLD, and again, those are LED lights. So that's how we're trying to make some efficiencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to make a comment. I'm really glad to see you on top of your game and being the way business is today and people trying to save money, no different than the private as the public sector. I'm glad to see this happening, and if we can save money overall, I think it's a great thing. And I got to commend you that you're coming up with these innovative ideas, and I'm saying to myself, geez, maybe I can change some lights at my restaurant. After listening to this, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes a lot. You don't think about it.
It's out of pocket
I know exactly
money, it's
those
real
bulbs.
money.
You don't really pay attention to it, but I think a lot of folks, even at home, I'm using the other type of bulbs. When one blows out, I try to, want to save money like anybody else. And I never thought of that, and didn't pay attention to it. It's a great idea.
Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you again. Have a good night. Our 7:15 appointment is with Robert P. McCann Jr., doing business as Main Street Liquors, and it's regarding request to transfer the license, change the name, change the location, and change the status of the ownership of the business formerly known as B&B Liquor Station, 433B Main Street, to Main Street Liquors, 335 Main Street, Unit 1. As in the past, I just want to disclose that my capacity as an attorney, I had occasion to speak to a party of interest to this case. I don't have any clients who have a financial interest. I don't have any family members who have a financial interest. I don't have a financial interest, but given those communications, the only way to get beyond a potential conflict of interest is either to disclose the substance of those discussions or to recuse myself. Since I represented a client, I just cannot and will not disclose the substance of those conversations. So I'll again recuse myself from this matter and ask that Mr. Lepore assume the chairman's seat for this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess you'd like to, I guess, start the hearing if you prefer. The receipts from the, I guess, from the abutters.
May I approach?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Acting Chairman, members of the board, my name is Bob Lavoie. I'm an attorney in Andover, Massachusetts, with Divine Millimet. I'm here tonight representing Robert McCann, who's sitting up here with me. As you may recall or see from the paperwork, Mr. McCann is already associated with this license. There are a couple of things to be accomplished in tonight's hearing, if it's the will of the Board of Selectmen. There is a renewal application that's been filed for. Probably more importantly and more constructively, Mr. McCann has located a new locale, a new location for this license. It's proposed to be at 335 Main Street, a building that some of you may be familiar with. Mr. McCann's proposed landlord is here tonight for any questions that the board or the chief or anyone else may have. That's Paul Nealon. He's in the audience, so we can call upon him as and when we may need to. I think you'll find the paperwork all in order. We've turned in the certified mail receipts. All the necessary abutters have been notified and have signed for their green cards. The materials have been submitted and looked over by the town manager's office, acting on your behalf. We believe everything's in order, but we're glad to answer any other questions. Again, part of the business tonight, beyond a renewal to keep it alive, secondly, a request to transfer the location, and third, to a request to have the license transferred solely into Mr. McCann's name. The board may remember the license was renewed last year, and its original partnership interests with Mr. Dunnett and Mr. McCann, who had been partners for several years. I wasn't involved, but I've heard tell that there was a proposal to transfer the license to another gentleman, Mr. Santini. That has come to an end in October. Mr. Santini terminated his interest under that agreement, ending what could have been or I heard tell was, more strenuous hearings than we hope to burden you with tonight. But we're ready, willing, and able to assist in your deliberations tonight and to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Guess I'll open it up to the board members. Mr. McCoy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick questions. I just want to ask you, from reading your application, what are you also an engineer, I believe?
Yes.
And I know you said you're going to be working there at full time. I'd just like to know how you plan on doing that working. You said you're going to assume the role of full-time running the liquor store, the day operations, but yet you're still a full-time engineer. How do you plan on doing that?
I'm a self-employed engineer. I'm a consultant. So my schedule's pretty flexible, and I basically work for 2 clients right now. And approximately takes about 15 hours a week of my time, which means at their office, I would say. So for the most part, I'm available, so.
And from reading the application, obviously, it sounds like you got a lot of experience, and I'm just wondering, when did you vacate the B&B Liquors? When did you actually shut that down? I just try to...
That was in April of 2008, yes.
So
And-
last year, when the renewal came up for the board, the location was
Vacant.
vacant at that time, but like anything else, it was hoped that the transfer that was then, or the transaction that was then contemplated with Mr. Santini would either come to a halt one way or the other, or come to fruition, and obviously that, played out differently than what the parties thought about in April 2008, so.
Well, like I said, it sounds like you have a lot of experience. Now, disposing of the liquor, do you know the laws in disposing of the liquor? Do you know how that works? And if you could explain to me that. And the second part is, when you shut down, what did you do with all your inventory? How did you dispose that liquor?
Well, for approximately a year before that date of April, my partner expressed an interest in selling the place, which when I had got into the business, I had no intention. I thought it was going to be a long-term business agreement. That being said, the store was loaded up originally with about $100,000 worth of inventory, and consequently, I was stuck with paying that bill. Instead of ordering and building it back up, we basically sold it off from that time to that month of April. In April, or actually in March, when we knew this was going to be signed, we were basically putting stuff on sale and selling large quantities of stuff, basically trying to clear the inventory out of there, and we did a good job. As far as the equipment goes, I still have my point-of-sale system and a few odds and ends, but everything was sold.
You had the agreement. So you pretty much get rid of all the liquor, or what did you do?
Yeah, if you happen to go into the store, basically in January, February, March, there wasn't a lot of inventory at all. We might have had a month's worth of liquor on the shelf. And our beer orders were week to week. So what we had in the beer was the freshest beer in town, I would say. But the inventory was minimal.
And I'd just like to ask, obviously, everyone's very aware of the liquor license. Obviously, it was for sale. Santini were looking to purchase it, and the Superior Court upheld the Wilmington Board of Selectmen's decision. Did you have any financial agreement with them? Did you make any money on that potential sale at all? No?
No.
It was only up a couple months ago that the Superior Court rendered its decision, and obviously right now you're looking to open up another liquor store. Do you have any intentions at all of selling the liquor store? Because obviously you were looking to sell that license. Do you plan on opening this full-time? Do you have any intentions of not selling the license?
My intention is to keep the store up and running for years, if I possibly could. I have a 10-year lease agreement that I signed, so I'm planning on staying there for at least 10 years. So.
And there's no talk about, even though you have a lease, obviously if you sell the license, obviously they're married to the lease as well. So, by the way, I want to tell the owner of the building, it's a beautiful looking building. You did a really nice job out there. That old building there right on Main Street, it really looks nice, and it really enhanced the area. I got to give you a compliment on that. The man that owns the building did a great job. But you have no intentions of, I know we can't get nothing guaranteed, but it just sounded like you wanted to sell the license and get out of it, and all of a sudden you're coming to the board now looking to open a liquor store in town. I think there's legitimate questions that need to be asked. Some of us, I don't know, maybe you intend to flip it. You had all intentions of selling it all this time, and I know the board, we did give a vote, giving you the opportunity. In fact, I think I made the motion allowing you the opportunity to, if you decided to sell it to Santini, you were able to do it. And unfortunately, that never came to be. I just asking these questions because I think they're legitimate questions.
Definitely.
My own opinion, I just don't think, you got a 10-year lease, but that doesn't say, you're not going to sell it, once you open up.
Right. My intention initially was to end the partnership because we had a disagreement. And the quickest way to do that was to sign a purchase and sale with somebody and break off the marriage of the partnership. Like I said before, my intentions were never to sell that store, that license. My wife and I had sat at the kitchen table with my ex-partner and made commitments to each other. And they were broken, months after we opened the store. So we knew we were headed for disaster day one, so.
So you're going to be one of these individuals, don't tell us this, and they do that. Because we've had people come to town meeting, well, I want to zone this, I'm going to do this, and then they do that. It happens time and time again, and people use the boards, and they use the community, and I could not mention folks in this community. So you're telling us that if we give you a liquor license, you're going to maintain that in the next 10 years. You're not going to flip it within the next year.
Those are my intentions, unless somebody in this room, wants to give me 4 times, the value of it, then I may have fool not to, but my intentions are to keep that. I'll pay for my kids' college, so.
I understand. I've had people offer me one more than that, and I chose not to sell it. I mean, never asked that. Go to town meeting and say, we're going to put something there, we do it, and we stay committed to it. There are us that do it, and there are those that don't, and they know who they are out there. It's sad, but it's unfortunate when people use the community and boards like they do. But I'm just trying to, get a feeling of what's going on, that's all. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, a follow-up to Mr. McCoy, I guess I know what he's getting at, from what I'm understanding, listening to. Would you be, if I was asked a question that you would like to, make a gentleman's agreement that you wouldn't sell that liquor license, say, over a term of 3 years, would you do that?
I would.
You would give us a gentleman's agreement?
Yeah.
One of the contingents that you wouldn't sell the license?
Yes.
I have questions about the building itself, not so much about, I don't want to change subjects too dramatically here, but if you're...
I just wanted to follow up because I heard Mr. McCoy, and I just thought it was a question to ask, and I mean, that cleared up a little bit of my theory of what was going on, to be honest with you. I mean, the license has been going on for like 2 years, and, there's been some red flags in my mind, like what is going on, from the time that you moved out, from the time that it went to Santini, from the time that it came out of court, now you appeared at the very end without, notifying us first to say, okay, I'm relocating or I'm buying out my partner, at least, a little bit of insight what was going on. It's, 1 week before the license are coming, we get, in our correspondence that here you are. So in my mind, I guess, it's backing up Mr. McCoy.
I understand.
This is what's reflecting in my mind, what is going on.
Right. Well, I didn't receive notice until October that Santini was giving up his pursuit of the license or any kind of appeal. And at that point, I said, okay, I want to act fast. I want to clean the slate, open a new store and retain the license myself. Luckily, there's a lot of vacancies in Wilmington right now. So I had a few places to choose from, and I met with Paul a couple of times, and we came to an agreement on what we could make the store look like, and we went forward with it.
I mean, I can see, again, for the town point of view, not to kill some time, but like, just the department head was in front of us, we're trying to save energy and money for the town. At the same time, we give out a business, actually a go-ahead for $2,000 for that license, and then all of a sudden it gets up, say for $150,000. I mean, the town only makes 2, and the profit in 1 year time could be, $150,000, $148,000, not a bad deal. And, again, if the town could, send us out for sealed bid, which I know we can't, but I mean, that's my point, that, same thing. We don't want to, just give licenses out to be sold within 1 to 2 years.
Right.
That's not what we're sitting here for. We give you respect at the same time, we're looking for the same,
No, I understand.
back.
I previously owned a license for 10 years. That was a full liquor license, so.
Mr. Shampoo?
Yeah, well, I appreciate those questions, I really do, because it's the gentleman's agreement thing I wouldn't have thought to ask, and I'm glad you did, but I appreciate your answer to that. A couple of little inconsistencies in some of this application paperwork, and I just want to make sure I have clarification on it, if I may. I'm specifically looking at Form A licensee personal information sheet. It's 7,000 pages into the document. Sorry, it's not a big deal. It's just and I didn't know if it was purposeful or. Let's see. The alcoholic beverage ABCC Form A licensee personal information sheet. Page 1 and 2, back page. I noticed on item 14. You write, manager of B&B Liquor Station 2005 to present.
Right.
Present. unless I don't know, again, it's a stupid little thing, but it's there. And I was like, that's interesting. The place hasn't been there for 2 years. 2 years?
A year and some.
18.
Okay, whatever it
18,
is. Is that just convention to do in the
I'm
circumstance?
listed on the license as a manager, so the license is still active in the state, so I just listed it as
Okay,
present.
and that's fine. Further down, it's under 16, you wrote 2006 to present. Is that, do you see where I'm looking? 2007 to present?
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
You know, again, just things that caught my eye, and I just wonder if they're clerical or, oopses, or if there was something that I'm not understanding.
No, I think the thinking was basically, again, because the license, by definition, has this, well, hopefully has stayed alive. It was renewed by the board, and the partnership entity is still in place, that although that's, let's call it, zero activity, because the store's been closed, and, and as far as employee goes, the employment duties have been more, taken care of and satisfying obligations that Mr. McCann was left in the lurch with. But, so again, it's not like full-time employment, but he was still engaged as, one of the.
Had that role.
Right.
Okay. That's fair on that. Again, sorry to be nitpicky, it's something that I did see. Bear with me, Mr. Chairman, if you will, please. I made a few highlights, and I just wanted to capture them before we moved on. I guess I'll jump over to the building itself. I'm not an expert in building layout or retail layout. However, I noticed on this large layout, and I think I have some communication that indicates that it might be changed now, but the entrance, the main entrance for your patrons on the grid that I'm looking at is substantially far away from where your checkout counter is, which to my eye, I think it's on the west side is
Right.
the main entrance, and your checkout counter was all the way on the Main Street side, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And so what jumped out for me there was, boy, this is liquor, and there's an opportunity for theft and all the other things. So has that been addressed, and are there changes to this design
This is actually going to be the front entry door on the side here by the checkout.
on the north side?
Right.
Okay.
And the double door is going to be an emergency exit. That's part of the landlord's work to be done. This wall here shows glass. It's not glass right now.
I'm going to use the photos. So the north face?
That face right there you have will be the entryway. That metal door will be a glass door, and where the wall is, that would be glass, not a concrete or brick wall.
Okay. Okay.
You
And
see
so,
them on the plan, they're different shape than the hatch of the
Right.
wall.
so the main entry is really right there next to the checkout counter, and exit, that is.
Yep.
Okay. Forgive me. May I direct a direct question to
yeah.
the police chief? Is that consistent? Are the positioning of the checkout counter and the main entrance and exit, that is, that's consistent with how you would prefer to see the layout? Is that true? Or?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I guess the only other question that I can specifically ask on that note is, on the application, it talks about some nominal amount of work that you would be engaging in terms of painting and putting in some shelving. So how are you going to accomplish the goals of this what I would suggest is, or what I would think is, a more robust remodel?
That's actually the landlord that's going to take care of that. Yeah.
Nice negotiation. Okay, Mr. Nealon, you've worked that out with Mr. McCann?
My responsibilities include all the outside work, the new glass door, the additional glass along the north elevation. This space is partially fit out now. We're going to drop the ceiling, distribute the HVAC, finish the inside walls, the toilet rooms are in place, and do the flooring. He takes it from that point. So It's basically doing fixturing and some light cosmetic work.
And Chief, we're happy with parking in that area for what I'm sure he hopes as a high volume of customers?
I believe we'll be really
Thank you, thank you. That's all the questions I can think of.
Any other members? Lou?
Yeah, actually, he asked a lot of the same questions I was going to ask, and then we got this memo from the police chief, which obviously you sat with both the owner and the landlord. On the original one, the marketing site plan, there was some mention of a drive-through window. There's no drive-through window there, right? Okay, that's also taken care of. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Anybody from the, you want to state your name?
Mario Mark, 85 Sunset Place. Mr. Laporte, I think what you asked him was commendable, gentleman's agreement not to sell the place. But the question I have to ask you and the rest of the board, what if he does sell it? What's the recourse that the board of selectmen is going to have? I don't think you have any legal recourse than a gentleman's agreement. I just figured I'd just throw it out there because it's nice to have.
The only thing for me is a man of his word is a word. And fortunately, if he's going to stay in town, live in this town, he's going to have to, you know what I mean? I mean, overall.
No, I think it's great. It just, that's what I'm concerned about is in 2 years and the town's going to be in a legal battle with him over who he sells it to. That's what I'm worried about in 2 years from now.
Absolutely right, if I can say, there's nothing legal. I mean, the guy, saying and doing. The bottom line is, you're absolutely right. There's no commitment here at all. He can flip it tomorrow if he wants to, or he can keep it for 100 years. And in town, we get folks tell us all the time that they're going to do this, and like I said, going back, they do that. And I'm not saying that's in this particular instance, but no, you're right. There's no commitment here, nothing binding, Absolutely.
I just want that to be clear. It's just a gentleman's agreement that he does sell in 2 years, and I'm just not telling him not to sell it where he can do what he wants. It's his property. Gentleman's agreement, that's all it is. It's no legal binding action unless the board does something to put something on the license to prevent him from selling it for 2 years. I don't know if that's possible. I have no idea. So I know, I just figured out that's all. Thank you.
I mean, publicly, I just felt that, one-on-one with all the controversy that license has been going on, that, I want it very clear and I want it very open, especially for what this board's been through, to at least know the next question that still part of that ownership is still here. And I want them to at least know, in the town to hear it, that, the question has been asked, and he wants to do business in this town. He has a business also that's a supplement in this town that, openly and even publication-wise with the newspapers, it's going to be stated. And, as long as he's going to be, and actually I see he lives in this town by ownership also, that, if he's a man of his word, go the 3 years unless he has a very downside in business, well, then, we'll have to respect it. Any other questions?
I came up with another one.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Mr. Shampoo.
Right now, you have no employees. I suspect you'll be having employees at some point in the relative near future.
Correct.
Can you just maybe give me the 10-second answer as to what your plan will be for, I guess, hiring them, but also training them and getting them up to speed with all the necessary training that they need in the sale of the product that you're selling?
At the last location, I had family members really help out, and it would probably be the same people, cousin, parents, and keep it at that level. Hopefully it grows to a point where we need more people, but I think we'll be fine.
Have you, I can't remember, I don't want to waste time going through the paperwork. Is there liability insurance have you applied for, or will you be applying for general liability insurance?
I will.
Okay.
Yes.
You want to take a few more minutes for?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Any other board members?
Just like to make a
Mr.
quick
McCoy?
comment. I know you're going to eventually call for a vote. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm going to vote in opposition to this, and I'm going to tell you the reason why I'm going to vote in opposition to this. Is I know this thing's received a lot of attention. I know this is a new day, but the bottom line is what's interesting. We ask you, what's your intention, and I know you can't look into a crystal ball, but the point is, I was hoping to hear the fact that, I plan on staying here for a while, and we've heard so many people come before boards in towns. We want to do this and we do that. You already proved to us once you wanted to sell it, and that's fine. That's your intent. But to hear you say, well, somebody offers me 4 times. my honest opinion, you're only in it for the buck. That's the way I see it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to vote in opposition to this because I don't believe for the fact that that's going to happen. I believe for the fact that it's probably going to get flipped. And I just think the bottom line is I think sometimes you have to draw the line in the sand and say, you know, I've seen enough in this community, and that's how I feel. And, you know, I put my reputation out on the line to do things. You know, some of us go to town meeting, we make commitments, and we do things, and we try to do the right thing. And I just, like I said, I can't foresee the future, but just that answer alone by hearing, well, if somebody asks me 4 times and there's a laughter to it, there's no doubt in my mind that you plan on flipping this. And I can see it happening. And I'm just going to take a stand right now and to send a message out there that, hey, you know, I think it's time that boards stand up and say, you know something, you're not going to use this board for your own personal gain. And that's how I saw this. And I hate to say it that way, and I was kind of leaning to vote for the thing, but when I hear that comment, it just reinforces things that I've seen. And I'm going to take a stand right now here and vote in opposition to that. And whatever my colleagues choose to do, that's, you know, their prerogative, but I just think it's time we send a message out to folks, and you proved it to us that you wanted to sell it, which is fine. And I just, now all of a sudden there's a change of heart. I just don't buy it. And I'm just voicing what I feel. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but
Okay.
I've been in this game, you know, I've been in this a long time, and I've seen a lot in this community. I've been a selectman for 20 years. And I just, you know, I think it's time that we just take some stance, because we already have a track record of this license, and I just don't see it. I hate to say it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. I guess, any other questions before I call it for a motion? No other questions? Someone like to make a motion to put forward this vote?
Can we make a motion to do all the transfer, the change of name, change of location all in one?
Yes.
I'll make the motion, we approve the application from Robert P. McCain Jr. doing business as Main Street Liquors to transfer the license, change the location, change the name, and change the status of ownership from a partnership to an individual. The business formerly known as B&B Liquor Store, 433B Main Street, Wilmington, Mass. to 335 Main Street, Unit 1, Wilmington, Mass.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? 2 in favor? All opposed? 2 opposed.
Mr. Chairman, the license does not pass.
Is there a possibility the board would entertain at least the renewal?
I think that, if I may, that comes up at during the renewal session. I don't know what the board will do at that time, but that comes up at the renewal.
I guess that's it.
Is there a reason? I mean, is it just Mr. McCoy's reason?
As right now, I'd rather not, you know, discuss it only because of, I'm sure we'll have, you know, more of a discussion on this.
I scratching my head to think of what forum that would be in.
Well,
I think the bottom line, the vote's been taken, and I don't know whether the recourse, right now, we'll look at everything at the renewal.
Unless a member want, you know, move for reconsideration. In fairness, I know that you have your reasons, and what you cited was, you know, a quip that was made, and but again, I heard it being made in jest, and I'm sorry if it offended or took anybody's, you know, attention away from trying to keep a business and at least a couple of jobs in Wilmington.
Again, you have the right to
Yes.
file for it, as you know. But as far as, you know, the request tonight is the public hearing tonight.
Is the board doing the renewals tonight?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to
Just close the public hearing.
Yeah.
We can move on.
I'm going to close the public hearing as of now.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is communications. If we could begin with correspondence from Vincent Cameron.
Mr. Chairman, you have correspondence from Vincent Cameron, the chairman of the Reading Municipal Light Department, regarding the extension of the 20-year agreement. Pursuant to Section 11 of that agreement, Mr. Cameron is notifying the town, along with the other three communities, specifically Wilmington, that the time has come to extend the agreement if it's the desire of the community for an additional 10 years. The extension would continue the agreement through July 9th of 2030. In 2000, the 20-year agreement extension was placed in the town meeting warrant. Town meeting authorized the Board of Selectmen to enter into an extension, which they did. And Mr. Cameron, again, wants to bring this matter forward at all of the various communities, including Wilmington, Reading, North Reading, and Lynnfield. And he's indicated that he'll be available to appear either at a town meeting and/or a Board of Selectmen meeting to answer any questions on the agreement. So he's attached a copy of that, the agreement, the action that was taken back initially 10 years ago, and then in 2003 as well.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of specifics about the last time that was done, but I remember that it's done well in advance of the expiration of the agreement. It's a fairly complicated statutory scheme that we're operating under, so if you could just get some feedback and bring it back to us.
Would you like me to schedule Mr. Cameron?
Actually, that'd be a great, yeah,
Okay.
we'll do that. Thank you.
The board has a correspondence from Ralph Sacramone, the Executive Director of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, indicating that a request from the 99 restaurants for a new officer director in the various communities in which the 99 operates was received. And they tell us that due to the magnitude of these transactions, the commission has received the information and documents provided by the licensee. The review was to determine whether the transaction is consistent with applicable laws, and based upon that review, the ABCC is satisfied. Therefore, rather than setting out all of the individual actions that have to take, they're doing this in one fell swoop. They will be contacting the town directly about the forms that the town has to fill out, but that there's no action required in this case by the local community at this time. The board has a memorandum from Carol Hamilton, Director of Planning and Conservation, regarding the affordable housing lottery that's going to take place with regard to Canal Village on Lake Street. This past December 10th, LA Associates held an information session for those that are interested in the affordable housing units at Canal Village, which is located at 155 Lake Street. Mr. Stewart is the project developer, Rich Stewart of the 40B Affordable Housing Project. There are a total of 16 homes, 4 to be affordable. 12 of the homes are single family, and the remaining 4 will be in 2 duplex units. The affordable units will sell for $197,000. There has been a great deal of interest expressed, and people have attended this information session and also have gathered up a number of applications. The applications are due on January 8th, and the lottery for the assignment of the units is scheduled for January 21 here at the Town Hall. All the homes will have 3 bedrooms, and by state guidelines, the households needing 3-bedroom units must be given preference over households of 1, 2, or 3 people, unless there are insufficient eligible applicants to fill the units. There is a local preference for Wilmington residents for 2 of the 4 units, again, unless there are not eligible applicants to fill those units. Would note that the exterior of the affordable units is identical to the market rate units, and the interior finishes may vary between market rate and affordable units, with market rate units having a variety of upgrades. Deed restrictions to preserve the affordability are placed on the affordable units in perpetuity. And so anybody who is interested can get an application either at the library or here at Town Hall at the Planning and Conservation Office or through LA Associates. And they are listed on the DHCD's website. So that information is available. If there are any questions from the board, I'd be happy to answer them. Wanted to advise the board that we've received a notification from the Massachusetts Municipal Association that we are being recognized as a community, once again with an award certificate for placing among the top 3 municipalities in Category 1, which is a population group of 12,500 or greater for the Massachusetts Municipal Association's annual town report contest. And so I'm pleased to inform you that this is the 6th consecutive year that the town has been recognized by the MMA as an award recipient. This year is a third place recipient. And you will recall, I'm sure, that we received first place awards in 2003, 2004, and 2006, and a second place in 2005. And so last year and this year we were awarded third place. A debt of gratitude goes out to all who participated in the formulation of this production, and a special commendation is extended to members of my staff, and particularly Beverly Dalton, who spends untold hours in the production of this report and really coordinates the report, which has been, as I've indicated, an award winner for the last 6 years. Also, it's important to say that, unlike many of the communities, we provide a camera-ready document to the printer without the benefit of any outside assistance.
Congratulations. Yeah, I was just going to say that I think you said it all, but congratulations again.
Thank you. The board has correspondence from Adam D. Filippo, the franchise manager for Verizon Video, regarding rate changes to the FiOS TV service. Rate changes for residential and business customers. They've indicated that due to the rising cost to provide Verizon FiOS TV service, the rate for the HBO package and any package that includes HBO programming will increase by $1 on or after January 17th of 2010, and that notice has already been mailed to Verizon FiOS TV customers earlier this month. We also have a letter, Mr. Chairman, from Nancy Coates, who is a licensed specialist for Ruby Tuesday, advising the board that Ruby Tuesday will not renew the alcohol liquor license for the year 2010. And they are extending their appreciation to the board for all of the help that they've received throughout the years. As you are aware, Ruby Tuesday has changed their plans, will not be coming to Wilmington. Instead, at that same location, Chili's restaurant will be locating there, and they have filed their paperwork, the restaurant to be located at the Staples Plaza. Wilmington Crossroads is the actual name of the plaza. They'll be located, Wilmington Crossings, excuse me. They'll be located in that same location where Ruby Tuesdays was to be located on the Route 38 side. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the correspondence, and the board is now being asked to consider approval of 2010 licenses for alcoholic beverages, Class 1 garage, Class 2 garage, entertainment, common victular, and the pouring permit for Vincent Cellar.
Okay.
In terms of the alcohol licenses?
Yes.
Okay.
If you could read them.
We have the following are 2 club licenses for renewal. I've received favorable recommendations: Aleppo Temple, which is the Fordham Associates, Inc., and the Knights of Columbus, known as 4982 Building Association, Inc. These would be for club licenses. Do you want to
do we, yeah,
do them in category, or?
Why don't we take them by category? And with B&B, the applicant that was in before, I want to hold that
Hold
one
off
out
on
from
that.
the motion so that I can
Okay.
abstain if there's any extra discussion.
Uh,
But let's take up, why don't we take up the 2 club licenses, and then we'll go from there.
All right, and then, you want to take those up separately?
You can
or
read them all, and then we'll take them up
And then the renewal on Casa di Fiore Function Hall, a package store licenses Colonial Park Liquors, Eastgate Liquor Store, Mystic Liquors, doing business as Wilmington Plaza Wine and Spirits, and ShopRite Liquors, Inc., and then all alcohol restaurant licenses for Focaccia, doing business as Focaccia Restaurant, Michael's Place, Rocco's Restaurant, Royal Dynasty, 99 Restaurants of Boston LLC, doing business as 99 Restaurant and Pub, and A&C Stone, Inc., doing business as Golden Ginger Restaurant. All of these entities have favorable recommendations from the appropriate authorities.
All right, let's try taking this up by category. Do we have a motion with reference to the 2 club license applications for renewal, Aleppo Temple and Knights of Columbus?
I make a motion that we grant the request.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous. And the function hall request from Casa di Fiore, Inc.
I'll make the motion that we approve the license for 2010 for Casa di Fiore, Inc.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous. And then we'll take up items numbered 4, 5, 6, and 7, which are package stores, Colonial Park Liquors, Inc., Eastgate Liquor Store, 211 Lowell Street Corp., doing business as Eastgate Liquor Store, Mystic Liquors, Inc., doing business as Wilmington Plaza Wine and Spirits, and ShopRite Liquors, Inc. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, we renew the applications for the liquor licenses.
I'll second it.
Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous. And with B&B Liquor Station, again, I will recuse myself. If somebody could offer a motion, and Mr. Lepore call for the vote.
Do we have a motion for B&B Liquor Station?
Mr. Chairman, we have recommendations relative to that, if I might, with regard to, since they're different than the other recommendations. With regard to the chief, he indicates that B&B Liquor Station is no longer in existence. The Wilmington Police Department makes no recommendation on the alcohol license renewal of this former establishment. And then you have correspondence from Deutsch Williams, which gave you guidance with regard to the license request, and also the license relative to the B&B Liquor Station, indicating that the license was renewed in December of 2008 in light of the board's consideration of the Santini application to acquire the license and related appeals. B&B apparently has submitted a request to renew its license simultaneous with the above transfer application. Because the Santini appeals are concluded, which have held the board's denial, and B&B no longer is in operation, council is indicating there is no sound basis to again renew B&B's license. He's recommending that you do what you did, and that was before expiration of the license, that the board consider and act on Mr. McCann's transfer application.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to.
I'd be happy to make a motion, given the information given by town council, that we're not obligated to renew the license for B&B liquor license as the time has expired and the case is over. I'd make a motion that we deny the request of granting a license to be a liquor license and to recheck the license.
Do I have a second? I guess.
I'm just trying to think it through, and I don't want to rush here.
Yeah, can I ask a question? If we don't renew this license, what happens to it? Maybe I'm being naive here, but it's just,
It's over.
it's over.
The license is gone. I mean, I would defer it to applicants' counsel with questions about any appellate rights. But if the applicant right now has a valid license from the Board of Selectmen that expires on December 31st of this year, if you choose not to renew it, then he will no longer have a license. And in fact, there is no, I mean, again, unless the board wants to continue to approve what essentially is a pocket license that has not been in operation for approximately 20 months.
We just denied the moving of the name and the ownership and the building for basically so he couldn't sell it. Is that what I'm, basically so he couldn't turn around and sell it? So now we're gonna deny him the license altogether so he, I guess my point is he paid money for this license at some point. And he has one of the 5 licenses in town here. I just don't understand why now we're saying, okay, now we're not gonna allow you to move it just because you might sell it in a year or a month, and now we're taking away his license altogether. I just don't understand that.
If I heard Mr. McCoy right, according to Mr. McCoy, town council is saying that license is not valid anyways, as of right now.
The town council saying we're not obligated to renew it. The bottom line is the gentleman has ceased operations, as the manager stated, for 20 months. There's no business there, period. You know, and, you know, I just, looking what town council has made a comment, and being here, sitting on this board, I mean, you can physically know that there's no B&B liquors. They've been non-existent for 20 months, and just to mention to the applicant, I'm the one who made a motion to grant the application an opportunity to continue the fight, granting the license last year. It's gone through its process. It's over as far as Superior Court, as far as the town's concerned, and the bottom line is there is no existing business right now of B&B liquors. The only thing is now is a pocket license. It's been there for 20 months. I made the motion that we just, you know, deny the license based on those facts. It's not there. That's right, the application's in front. Well, you should better answer that. Why did you?
Excuse me,
I don't think you need to, you're the one simultaneously put it together. No, for whatever reason, the applicant has decided simultaneously to put both applications in. I can't speak for you. You're the only one who can speak for yourself. I look at the facts. B&B is no longer in operation. It's been out of business for 20 months. I think you did well by the board last year. It was my motion to give you a license to continue on your fight, and it didn't pan out. And there's 4 members up here. There's 2 members voted for and 2 members voted against. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way you wanted it. The bottom line is there is no B&B liquors in existence today. It's gone, been gone for 20 months, and town council said we're under no obligations to renew it. Other members want to renew it, that's up to them. But the way I look at it, I'm being consistent. It's not there. I don't think anybody should have a pocket license, and that's it. I don't know what else. I know you're not happy with it, and...
No, I agree with you. No, I'll wait till it opens up.
Yeah, all right, so...
Again, I just have a problem here where he did come in with a new location, and all the town boards seem to approve it and want it, and then we're saying you might sell it in a year, so we don't want to approve it. I just have a problem now just taking the guy's business away, and
I guess what happened is, and Mr. McCoy brought up a good point, and I guess the gentleman back there brought up a point to my point, is that, like he said, there is no guarantee put in the stipulation of he can turn around and sell it tomorrow.
Right, but if you
And he
could
did answer the question, as Mr. McCoy stated, that if someone offered him 4 times the amount, it could be sold tomorrow.
I'm not going to begrudge any money from anybody
So,
for making
I mean,
money, but if
I
he...
suppose it all comes down to this, Lou, that the format being is I think as the town manager stated, that he could apply all over again for that license just as other fellows can. I believe that's the route it can be done, correct?
If there's no license,
Right.
then there would be one license available in the town of Wilmington. And what I said was I don't know what appellate rights could be exercised by the applicant. I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to pretend to know the answer to that. I can only tell you that the license for B&B would not be renewed Therefore, the town is entitled to 5 package store licenses, and whether or not, and I guess we would entertain any new license requests as they come in. We would forward same to town council and others for their review.
Mr. LaPointe, may I? I'm sorry to ask a naive question. Did this applicant pay for this license when it was originally approved to him 3 years ago, whatever it was?
Oh, the applicant is up to date on his fees for the current period. That period expires December 31st.
Okay.
And he has provided an application check for the process he went through a little earlier before the board, which will, I suspect, be given back to him since the board didn't approve it.
If I may, part of what I heard and part of my perception on this is that admittedly the business B&B has not been in existence for 20-something months, whatever the numbers are. Part of the reason that that has been the case is because the applicant was waiting in the wings for Mr. Santini's case to come to some conclusion. I'm probably assuming some stuff here, but I would assume here that if the Santini case had come to conclusion earlier, that it's Mr. McCann, is that right? That Mr. McCann probably would have submitted his application or tried to get a business open sooner. It was only just 2 months ago that that Santini case and all the appellate process came to conclusion. And so now we have, you're right, we have 2 events happening here all at the same time at the end of the year. I guess I'm sensitive about we didn't approve this location because we're worried, I think, or at least those that voted in opposition to it are worried that he's going to flip the license or flip the entity. And I don't see why we should necessarily jump to decline him or remove the possibility for him to maybe find another location. If it was, I know it wasn't location necessarily that scared us away from approving this evening, but perhaps there's another way that this applicant could attack this that would be more amenable to the other members of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm more than happy to withdraw that motion. If you plan on making a motion to grant a license for a business that does not exist, knock yourself out. I withdraw that motion. I'm saying is, and if you want to do that, go right ahead.
I'm just trying to understand the process, Mike, that's all. Just trying to talk it out. No, I mean,
My point is, I know we're talking about something that's already happened, but if he did turn around and say in 6 months and come in and say he wants to sell his license, obviously at that point, we're going to be voting on a new owner, or maybe new location if they wanted to change it again. I just feel like, I don't know if he answered this question, did he physically pay for the license when you first got it?
For the current license?
Yeah.
Yes, the payment has been made for the current license.
Okay.
Right.
And plus the annual fees?
Well, the fee is the $2,000 annual license fee. I think that's what it is, $2,000 or $1,750, whatever, something to that effect.
I also paid buying for the partnership. Somebody else owned the license. I had to put up some upfront money.
can one sell a license?
Well, one can sell a license. They do that all the time with the business, but the license still is subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. So if this were June, for example, and not December, and it would have been similar to what the intent was with the Santini, was essentially to transfer the license. The two parties would negotiate amongst themselves the value of that, but it would be the board's determination as to whether or not to approve the request, and in that case, a transfer or a new license, or whatever the request might be. I mean, if I may, Mr. Chairman, to answer I think the questions you were posing, Mike, sequentially what happened was as Mr. McCann indicated, the business began to decline, and in early 2008, March or April, which were the 2 months that were mentioned, the business literally closed. So there was no operation at B&B Liquor. In fact, that operation became something else. And then an application came before the Board of Selectmen to transfer what was a valid license. He had a valid license at that time. And that was the matter of Mobile on the Run, the Santini application, which, as you know, continued to go forward until right through an ABCC hearing in the end of, I think in October of 2008, and then a decision was rendered, and then the town appealed the decision, and it went to the Superior Court, and the Superior Court finally rendered a decision in September, I believe, of 2009. Meanwhile, the board renewed, as Mr. McCoy mentioned, renewed the applicant's license for 2009 upon the recommendation of town council, since there was litigation going on. The board was advised to take no action until the entire matter was adjudicated. The matter was resolved by the Superior Court in September, I believe, of 2009. There was a 30-day appeal period at that time, which ended sometime in October. The applicant, who was Mr. Santini, chose not to exercise his appellate rights, and now that's brought us to this point where Mr. McCann has brought in a new application to transfer his license. So that's, I mean, the only way the board can, at this point, I think the board has made its decision. They certainly could reconsider upon a motion to do that, or we can just move on. And we're now on his current request, which town council has indicated, and I think rightly so, that the board needs to look at this because there is no B&B Liquor. There is no operation. I'm not offering an opinion one way or another, either on the first vote or on the renewal of this vote, but there is a pragmatism here that I think has to be recognized by the board with regard to a non-existent operation.
Might I submit, I don't know what the procedure is here from Robert's rules, but might I submit a motion to reconsider the vote we took moments ago on the original application?
For discussion?
I'm suggesting we move to,
Well, if we're going by, again, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if we're going by Robert's rules, somebody on the prevailing side can either by a courtesy motion or by a serious motion can move to reconsider. The prevailing side in this case, even though it was 2-2, was the side that voted in opposition, because that's what the result of a 2-2 vote was.
Thank you.
So that would mean either Mr. McCoy or Mr. Lepore would need to offer a motion to bring it back to the table for discussion.
I have no problem. I guess I have two Board of Selectmen. I am going to bring and rescind my discussion back. I make a motion that we, I'll rescind it and make a motion that we have a discussion on this liquor license.
so,
You would need a second to Mr. Lepore's
Yes,
motion,
I
then a
need a second.
vote as to whether to reconsider it. And it would only be to reopen discussion.
Okay, I'll second it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I think
Three in
it's going to be
favor?
on the same side, right?
Ms.
I think-
McCoy?
I think it would be up to me to reconsider where it's the prevailing side, not to get to the
second
second,
it?
right?
No, just a motion
Right.
would be required, Mike.
All right, I have no problem reconsidering it, give my colleagues an opportunity. All right, fine.
so we're just in discussion mode
We're
here.
we're right, in discussion.
Can we be clear, was the vote 3-1 or 4?
You know, yeah, 3-1, I'm just going to be consistent.
Okay,
I made a
just
vote.
for the record, I just want to make
No,
sure.
no.
Thank you.
And I guess, Lou, I'll give you the first floor where you brought the point up. You can make your discussion.
Yeah, the timeline that the town manager just opened out there was, it left it, Mr. McCain, 2 months to come to this point again. And we approved the license last year because of the litigation that was going on. And I think he comes in here today with that 2-month time frame. He went out and he got a new location. He went out and he's going to do, the landlord's going to make some modifications on the building. He's gotten the approval of all the department heads, the department heads.
1 second. Mr. Mike, would you like me to keep the hearing going? Okay, you want me to wait? Just wait 1 second, please.
Yeah.
No, this is just open discussion among ourselves first, but I guess we're, Mr. McCoy's going to have to vote, we have to wait. Oh, no problem.
Clarify something. Thank you.
Like you and Mike have his name tags, which I was just told.
Okay, Lou, can I have the floor again?
Yeah, so I mean, that's,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. That's what I'm saying, is we approved it last year so we could work his way through the litigation, whether it worked in favor that he sold the license or whatnot. Now he's come back, he's done all this work, and I just don't understand, and obviously it's within our rights to decline the license for whatever reason that we do, any selectman deems appropriate to vote. But I don't understand how we can stop it just because he might flip it in a year or 6 months or 2 years or 2.5 years. I just don't understand it. I don't think it's fair to the owner of the license and the owner of the business, granted, which is not here right now because of they closed and they were trying to sell it. So that's my only point. I think we should. I'm glad you made the motion to reconsider and open this up for one more discussion. Because I would have a problem voting to approve the license again. Obviously, town council suggested we don't do it and recommended we don't do it. And if there is no B&B and there's not going to be B&B, I would obviously have a problem voting in favor of the license if we don't approve the location, the change, and all the other things we voted on earlier. Thank you.
But I believe that B&B, that liquor license, it has been voided. Am I correct? As far as
December to the end of this year.
2 more weeks, right? That's what we were that was what we were just about to discuss before we reopened the discussion. My position on this, if I may, is that we have the approval of the public safety people, that the location is sound, that the layout is sound, and so we have a viable business here that is approved by the people that are that we charge to advise us in this case. If Mr. McCann were to want to get an offer for 4 times the value of his property, frankly, I think he'd be silly not to sell. But that's my personal opinion, speaking as a business person. You took the time to ask him, and I'm glad you did, if he would be willing to make a gentleman's agreement to honor a 3-year commitment. And he said yes. And I think that's important. To me, that weighs very heavily to me. And I respected and appreciated you asking that question. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I'm willing to bet that we could never get legal text into an agreement that says that he can't sell the license inside of 3 years. So the gentleman's agreement weighs heavy for me. Admittedly, and you said something else that was important, he lives in this town, he's going to have to continue to operate as a resident in this town. He owns a business, another business that he does in this town. So those are important things. Now, additionally, and I'm not an attorney, I'm guessing that by virtue of of this board declining him based on our suspicion that he's going to flip the license or flip it, that his attorneys are going to pursue an appeal process. If I was an attorney, and I'm not, in case I haven't made that clear, it seems like there ought to be an avenue for attorneys to go after something like that. So I think the reason that we're using for declining is questionable. And that's, again, I'm just using common sense and my own brain to come up with that. I think the way that the material was presented was professional and sound, and I think it's a good location. The way that they've reconfigured the entrance, our police chief has supported it, and I believe that it's worthy of our support. I think I take the man on his word. And I'm glad we had this chance to have this conversation.
Mr. McCoy?
No, I just only agree with my colleague that I agree, he's not an attorney. That's it.
Well, unfortunately, I find myself on the firing line a lot, being in this seat, many votes. I did ask the question. There's no doubt about it, as you stated. Before I call for a motion, I guess I have some hands up out there. I'll give you a chance to speak. I am going to say something afterwards, but before I say it, I'd like to, I guess your name, if you like, I'll call on you first. I'll hear all the input I can. This gentleman here, stand up and give your name.
My name's Paul Nealon. I own the real estate at 335 Main Street. I just wanted to give you my perspective on things. I met Mr. McCann right before the appeal period ended from the prior matter, so that would have been sometime in September, when he thought that this Samatini, whatever the guy's name now, was going to wrap up and he would have an opportunity to rent space at my property at 335 Main Street. My perspective on it was he was in a bad marriage, he was in a bad partnership. He thought he sold the license in an effort to get out of the partnership. He reached an agreement with his partner to get him out and intended to go into my building as a sole operator. So when he came to me, we negotiated a lease on property that, I spent a lot of money renovating. I don't know if your memory is what that property was before I renovated it, but my timing couldn't have been worse. We finished the renovations, the economic crisis hit, the property has been largely vacant. When I heard that he was interested in putting the liquor store, I was excited. I met with Carol Hamilton. I asked her, had an informal discussion whether it was an appropriate use. She said that it was. I met with the building inspector, found out it was a permitted use. He said that it was. I met a few days ago with the police chief and addressed all of his concerns about whether it was a safe and appropriate location. It's on Main Street. If not there, where? I guess I don't understand. If you have a business in this town, if it's a matter of character, then we should talk about the location. If you're going to talk about his ability, his creditworthiness, his capabilities, but I'm a little confused in this process. Is the denial based on his character? Then, or is it the real estate? I'd like to know if another applicant were to come forward, would you approve it in that location if it were another applicant?
Well, I have you at, there has been rumors that possibly building could be either re-renovated or possibly coming down. Is that, I mean, there has been rumors out there. I guess you have no intent, right?
That's absolutely not true. I just spent $1,750,000
we know you remodeled, right,
renovating
but
that
there has
property.
been quite a bit of rumors out there in the past month.
There's no intentions of doing that whatsoever. We're trying to secure tenants in a very difficult retail market, and this is a strong prospect for us. We've had tenants in the past that have failed, and we're hoping that this liquor store would be successful in this location.
I guess, you want to stand and state your name?
Sure. Mario Marchese, 5 Somerset Place. Just 2 point of facts. 5 minutes ago, you had talked about Ruby Tuesday and possibly renewing the license. They actually said they weren't going to renew it. Ruby Tuesday never existed. However, you did grant them a license. So, Mr. McQueen saying being consistent, you did actually grant the license to a business that never existed in town. Now, I know that there was the hope that they would come in, but they never did. Now, and also the second thing is clarification, Mr. Kyrie brought up, that if and when that he does decide to sell, if he does decide to sell at some point, the Board of Selectmen, still, it's up to them whether or not to grant that sale of the license. So no matter what happens in 6 months or 3 years from now, it's still your decision whether or not that sale happens. So if you want to block the sale, it's your right to do that. So to prevent this transfer is kind of, it's kind of a moot point that if you're objecting that he may sell the license 3 or 4 years from now, because you still have the right to stop that sale at any future point.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment? First of all, let me educate you, because you seem to think you know everything, and you don't. But let me say this. Now, let me say this. When they applied to the Board of Selectmen, they paid their fee because they had conditions that they were going to go there. Then they sent us a letter for economic reasons. They chose not to do that, okay? And I said to the gentleman earlier, I can't look in a crystal ball and decide what people are going to do, people's feelings or emotions. That's what happened. So the town made $2,000 on that license. And I can rest assure you that if Ruby Tuesdays was coming before the board again for a liquor license where they have not demonstrated any good faith in putting a building up there, I wouldn't vote for it. So I want to let you know that I am being consistent. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all. Thanks. You look confused.
No, it's...
Is there any other, anybody else? Any other questions?
I just want to get a response to my question. Is the real estate, in your opinion, suitable for the operation of a package store? Notwithstanding who the applicant is the real estate suitable for that particular use?
I would say absolutely yes. The floor plan that you submitted and then that you changed it when you sat with the police chief and whoever else you sat with, putting in windows, using the door, closing the back door as an emergency, I would say personally it would be absolutely yes.
And I've never been afraid to, one thing about me, people ask a question, one thing about me, I've always given an opinion. I have no problem with the location, to reassure you that, you know, I don't think we're going to be playing games here. The bottom line is it's not a bad location for a liquor store to go, to reassure you that. Just like I did a year ago to give that gentleman a vote, for giving him an opportunity to continue to fight his fight. I don't know how much more fair I can be. And you're talking about being confused. The bottom line is I'm exercising my right as a member of the Board of Selectmen on a vote, and that's what I chose to do. And I hope you respect that.
I do respect that. I just was confused because I thought the motion was to relocate the license, not necessarily whether to renew the license. I don't know whether there's a difference there. Maybe we've done this out of sequence. But was the motion before on whether to move the license from its former location to 335 Main Street? Is that what you voted on?
Yes. And among other things,
It says
change of name, change of ownership.
There were four components to the request, as Selectman Semaglia indicated. Number one was to transfer the license, by doing so changing the location, changing the name, and then changing the status of ownership from a partnership to an individual. So, what I'm hearing, and just what I'm hearing, is that there hasn't been an objection raised with regard to the location. And in fact, as the board is aware, and as we could report, there's favorable recommendations from a zoning point of view from the building inspector and the planning director. I mean, this is a retail use. It's in a retail zone, and it is appropriately site planned. So I don't think that the Board of Selectmen or the town has made any judgment with regard to the suitability of the location that is negative in any way. At least that's not what I've heard, and I think that's what Selectman McCoy just indicated.
So the basis for not going forward with this particular motion relates to the applicant, not to the location. Is that fair? By default, it would have to, right?
I guess by default, but I would defer that to the two gentlemen who voted. I mean, that's what I heard.
Keep on going along with this. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Do you need to bring another point up? I mean, you know, yeah, that is, what is the point?
The point is that seems like a rather arbitrary reason to deny, in my opinion, a license, because somebody wants to make money. I mean, in fact, everybody who gets a license in town, whether it's a victualler's license or any other type of license, does it with the intent to make money. So, I mean, I have various licenses. I don't get them for philanthropic reasons. I get them to earn money. This is a capitalistic society. And as long as we play within the rules, you should be able to make money. Whether he makes money by virtue of selling beer over a course of 10 years or he sells the license in 2 years doesn't seem to be the basis by which you should approve or deny the license, in my opinion. Everyone who goes into this town to get their license is doing it for the purpose of making money. Let's not kid ourselves. And he said that he intended to operate this for the next 10 years unless somebody paid him an outrageous amount of money. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me. on the surface.
You're absolutely right. Maybe the town should look at the bylaws and maybe change these licenses, $2,000 with it, possibly being sold for $140,000. Maybe the town ought to look at a different way of sealed bid, just like the state wanted to do with casinos.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, I do appreciate the board taking this opportunity to reconsider, because as I was departing the table, I was suggesting that my involvement with this is less than a week. Okay, so I don't know all the history. I've learned more, in the last week about the history. I've heard a lot more tonight than I knew walking into the meeting. It just strikes me that this board acted quite fairly last December. There was a pending application that was having difficulty. The sound advice of your counsel, again, I haven't seen it, but I've only heard it summarized, was let the process play out. The process has played out. As soon as Mr. McCann could free himself from the Santini arrangement, he acted as constructively as I think anyone can reasonably expect him to have done. He looked for a location to move the license to. He found a Main Street location, and then he set about securing the location, coming before the town, working with the town through your blue list, all your application requirements, which again is consistent with 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, how it's done. Also consistent with 351 cities and towns is the fact that liquor licenses are, and the goodwill that they create around such a business has value that a willing buyer and a willing seller enter into arrangements with. And it is a little disheartening. I'm a city councilor in Amesbury. We have liquor licenses. The town's hands under the general laws are tied in terms of how the ABCC administers, and I can understand the chagrin that every municipality has that why are we doing this and why aren't we getting something for our trouble? But again, that's the law since the 19th Amendment was passed, where states would be in charge of liquor policy. And Massachusetts adopted this liquor policy, in the 30s, and we've all lived with it for 80 years, and it's not perfect, but it is what it is. And there's not, as Ms. Nealon said, there's nothing inappropriate from running a business and profiting by it as long as you live by the rules. So the key thing that I just want to harp back to is, as soon as, in retrospect, everyone in this room would say, oh my God, I wish the Santini agreement had never been signed, but it was. It played out. I don't think Mr. McCann, because of the way it blossomed and took off, I don't think, he should, suffer a lot of retribution about that. I think he's paid his dues in terms of, angst, heartache, difficulty. But, as soon as he was free from that agreement, he went into his rebuilding mode. He is a community member. He's trying to do what's best for him, but it's also in a joint mutual interest for the benefit of the town as well. As Paul said, it's not altruistic. Everybody that's in a business that gets a business license from the municipality of Wilmington is in the same boat. So I don't mean to be lecturing. As I said, I do appreciate the opportunity, and I thank you sincerely for going through the reconsideration. If you do happen to vote it, if you'd like any further information or assurances, Mr. McCann and I are at your disposal. Thank you.
Any other board members have anything to say? Or I call for a vote? I guess it's coming down to me. I'm going to be the decider here. And I guess I'm going to look at one thing in here, principle. You told me, I did ask the question, I won't deny it, would he give me a gentleman's agreement? I guess the gentleman up there that spoke up twice was on both sides of the line. No hard feelings, Mario, but you made it a little confusing. You're on both sides of the line here. I brought up a very good point, and you came back with a counteroffer. Unfortunately, you confused me a little bit. Also, with Mr. McCoy brought up a very valid reason, too. He did ask the question. I'm not going to deny it. Wait a minute, I still have the floor. As this gentleman said, yeah, but it is a capitalist world, no doubt. You know, no doubt. We can't stop that, and maybe the town has to change a few other things in order, because we're not in this to get, you know, the same thing. We all want lower taxes, but we have to provide services and at the same time, you know, give greater schools, and you can see the school budget right now at 5%. So, I mean, we give out for $2,000, possibly, you know, and that sale might have been $140,000. Good profit, but the town of Wilmington only stayed at $2,000. I mean, maybe we got to change our method of doing business, too, in the future to draw in more money. But I'm going to look at this, you know, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not doing it for you. I'm not going to do it, you know, for the attorney. I'm going to do it for the man that told me in 3 years, okay, that he'll at least give me a gentleman's agreement. I like to put it in a motion that he gives me a gentleman's agreement, even though it means nothing, like you asked the question, Mario, okay, that I put forward a motion that he will not sell the license for a profit. Anybody like to put in the motion forward?
Yeah, I'd like to make the same motion I did earlier, but I don't know if we can add a gentleman's agreement. I mean, it's in the minutes.
I mean, we can't. We can just, you know what I mean? It's
It's in the minutes and it's on TV.
It's non-binding, but if it ever happens, Lou, I'll be able to say to you, Mr. Shampoo, I'll be able to say to you and to the general public.
Okay.
I did ask that question. I got that for an answer. I mean.
Before you call a vote, Ray, I just really can't believe, you're your own person. I just
Yeah.
really can't believe what you're doing. But you vote your conscience, you know, I know I can vote my conscience, and, you know, I just, wow, whatever.
Lou, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the application from Robert P. McCain Jr., doing business Main Street Liquors, to transfer the license, change the location, change the name, and change the status of ownership from partnership to an individual. The business formerly known as B&B Liquor Station, 433B Main Street, Wilmington, to Main Street Liquors, 335 Main Street, Unit 1, Wilmington, Mass.
Second.
All in favor? 3 in favor? All opposed? 1 opposed.
Thank you very much. Takes a big man to do what you did. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you are still on B&B Liquor Station and the renewal vote, which I would suggest it would be moot, but I think the board should take a vote.
Motion to approve B&B Liquor Station.
To approve?
You're going to approve a license that you just voted a second ago? You're going to be kidding me.
I'm sorry, what are we
You
doing
just
here?
gave out a license a second ago, and you're going to vote the guy another, go ahead and knock yourself, vote another license.
What are we doing? You said-
Well, it was
I can't believe
it was
it.
just
Ah.
suggested that we do it because it's on this.
I'm suggesting that we take up the matter. I presume, I indicated it was moot, so I presume that since you've just transferred it, you would vote to deny B&B Liquor, because it's now
Oh.
Main Street Liquors. You've just...
Sorry. I misinterpreted how it was worded. So, of course. Yeah.
Ray, do you want to call for that vote?
Do I have a motion for the denial of B&B Liquor Station at 433B Main Street, Wilmington?
So moved.
Second. Sorry.
All in favor? 3 in favor?
Oh, abstain.
All opposed?
He said he was going to abstain.
I think Mr. McCoy's abstaining.
Yes, opposed.
Abstain.
1 abstain.
Mr. Chairman, there's 6 restaurant alcohol licenses: Focaccia, Michael's Place, Rocco's Restaurant, Royal Dynasty, 99 Restaurant and Pub, and Golden Ginger Restaurant.
When we try taking these up, and if there are any abstentions, we can note that for the record. Let's take up all items 9 through 14. Fakasha Inc., DBA Fakasha Restaurant, Michael's Place Inc., Rocco's Restaurant Inc., Royal Dynasty Inc., 99 Restaurants of Boston LLC, doing business as 99 Restaurant and Pub, A&C Stone Inc., doing business as Golden Ginger Restaurant. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve all those.
I'll second.
Mr.
May-
Chairman, if I could, I have no problem supporting all. I'd just like to abstain from the voting on mine, please. Thank you.
Certainly. With that understanding, all in favor? It's unanimous, with one abstention relative to Michael's Place Inc. Certainly.
The
Class 1 garage.
Class 1 garage, both for renewal, with no negative determinations. Bill Doobie Hyundai at 220 Main Street and Cornerstone Automotive, at 580 Main Street.
Do we have a motion on the Class 1 garage licenses?
I'll make the motion to approve Bill Doobie Hyundai and Cornerstone Automotive Class 1 garage licenses.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
On the Class 2 garage licenses, Advanced Automotive, which is Wilmington Shell at 779 Woburn Street, Charlie's Auto Sales on Main Street, Heavy Equipment Connection on Andover Street, J&E Services on Main Street, and Route 16 Auto Broker on Main Street. I'd note for the record that Jamico USA did not choose to renew, so there are 5 of them for you.
Okay, and your comment relative to no negative recommendations pertain to the Class 2 also?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 5 garage licenses, Class 2.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
They went last year.
Entertainment licenses.
Entertainment license, we have renewals from Focaccia and from Rocco's.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion we approve Focaccia's and Rocco's, excuse me, entertainment license.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? Unanimous? Okay, the common victual licenses. If we could ask you to read the list.
Okay. 99 Restaurant and Pubs, AJ's Kitchen, Aleppo Temple, which is Fordham Associates, As Good as It Gets Cafe, Big One Restaurant, Big Joe's Enterprises, Brothers Roast Beef and Pizza, Burger King Restaurant, Casa di Fior Incorporated, China Walk, Country Chef Restaurant, Dunkin' Donuts, 211 Lowell Street, which is Adam Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts at 195 Main Street, which is CNC Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts at 321 Main Street, which is Wilmington Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts at 357 Middlesex Avenue, which is Hannon Donuts, Focaccia, Golden Ginger Restaurant, Kendra and Anthony's, Knights of Columbus, McDonald's Restaurant, Michael's Place, Peter's Pizza and Roast Beef, Rocco's Restaurant, Royal Dynasty Restaurant, Sandwich Exchange Express, Samard's Super Beef, Starbucks Coffee, Stop and Go Food, Subway Pariksha, Sunnyside Cafe, Wilmington House of Pizza. We have no negative recommendations on these locations.
Okay, again, subject to your abstention.
I'd like to make one point. If there's some neglect here or oversight, I don't want to hurt this gentleman. He's a good guy. Pizza Mia, I don't see their name here at all. And I would hope to think that if there was an oversight, that they continue to be in business and resubmit the application. I noticed they're not there. The guy that owns it's a nice guy. I like Don. He's a good kid. And I would hate to Just bring that up, you know?
I think that's an issue of seating. I don't believe he has seating at that location.
Oh, is that the
That's
reason
why
why?
there's no common victual.
Okay, no, I just want
I
to
appreciate
get a
that.
license, and I
Right.
definitely want him to stay in business, because
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that also speaks to the issue. I mean, we list 4 Dunkin' Donuts, there are a couple more, I think, in town, but because there's no seating, we don't, so they're not required. But they have to, obviously, they have to get all of their Board of Health permits. Thank you.
Okay, let's try taking them up at once. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I would make the motion that we approve the list that the manager read just moments ago, common victuals license for 2010.
Second.
Anything further? All in favor? And unanimous with one abstention relative to Michael's place. Certainly. And last renewal that we have is for a pouring permit at Vintner's Cellar.
Positive recommendations, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we grant the permission to continue the pour permit.
I'll second.
Okay, and it's been made and seconded, I presume, for a year?
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous?
That concludes the regular business before the board, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Public comments? Seeing none, new business or committee reports? Anything down this end?
Just Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. That's all I have to say.
As my colleague to the left of me said it, very prosperous Happy New Year and a Merry Christmas to everybody, and hopefully next year will be even a better year than this year, hopefully, and everybody can carry on. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I don't mean to beat the drum on this, but I would like to, through you, Mr. Chairman, have the town manager ask an opinion of the town council. One thing I've learned from town meeting, and Jimmy Stewart does a great job, when someone wants to reconsider the vote, you have to be on the prevailing side. And even though the vote was 2-2, the prevailing side was the 2 members who voted in opposition. So therefore, myself and Mr. Lepore are the prevailing side. I chose not to second that motion for discussion. I am not a lawyer. However, I believe that that discussion and that vote is not a legal vote, because the 2 members who did vote in favor of it was not on the prevailing side. Where I chose not to second it, I believe the vote is invalid. I believe the discussion should have never taken place, and I would like town council to render an opinion. We do it at the town meeting, and Jimmy Stewart's very clear, and that's one thing. He does a great job at that town meeting, and I got well educated, and because of that, I bring that up here now, Mr. Chairman. I believe the vote was illegal. I don't believe we should have entertained the vote because I did not second it, and I was on the prevailing side, and Jimmy Stewart makes it very clear in general laws in the Commonwealth that you must be on the prevailing side for it to actually reconsider. There's only 4 of us up here in front of the cameras, and that's the bottom line. So I believe the vote's invalid, and I believe that there's some teeth to this. And I just bring that up, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask town council of his legal opinion, and I would like that to be put together by the manager. I'd like to look at the letter before it being sent, putting it that way, as we see it. Every town meeting, you must be on the prevailing side for a reconsideration. And that did not happen here tonight, because I chose not to second that. If I chose to second that motion, which I did not, then absolutely that discussion could have taken place. That discussion should have not have taken place because it was not the prevailing side to make that motion and offer that discussion.
No objection to doing that. Just want to make sure that I'm clear. The board is asking the manager to request town council to review the vote, specifically as it pertains to the motion to reconsider and the legal effect that it may or may not have.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
It's a board member's right to request that. I don't have any objection. Anybody else? If you could, please take care.
Any question on that? Do we hold the license now?
I would suggest that manager can reach out to council sooner rather than later, immediately. And we'll get the answer as quickly as possible.
See it every time at the town meeting, not to beat the drum on it. You know, Jimmy Stu's very clear, and that guy knows his job, and you have to be on the prevailing side for a discussion to take place. And I believe they don't have a license. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Anything else down here?
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Same here. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Important dates.
Mr. Chairman, want to let everybody know that this Saturday, December 19th, we are conducting a town-wide seasonal flu clinic at the Town Hall from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's for all ages. If anybody has any questions, they're welcome to contact the Board of Health. But it will be here at Town Hall for Wilmington residents, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturday, December 19th. The Honden Tavern is conducting an open house at 2 o'clock on January 3rd. We begin the curbside collection of Christmas trees on January 4th, which will go to January 15th. The board's next meeting is January 11th. The board recalls that there is only one scheduled meeting in December. And just advance notice that there will be a Junction Route 93 Development Area Task Force meeting at the Tewksbury Public Library on January 14th. Special state election will be January 19th. And those who are interested in applications for the Canal Village Affordable Housing Lottery, they are due by January 8th. And the lottery itself will take place on January 21st.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor? That's unanimous.
I need the board.